Newt exposes how Mueller's one fatal mistake will leave him no choice but to shut it down. By Amy Moreno for TruthFeedNews.com. Newt Gingrich just exposed the fatal flaw special counsel Robert Mueller made when he interviewed one of President Trump's White House attorneys. Don McGanns spoke to Mueller's team for 30 hours and laid out everything. Now, there is no excuse for Mueller to interview President Trump and thus trip him up and cook up some half-crocked obstruction charge. As it stands now, Mueller has boxed himself in and has no other choice than to wrap up his investigation. From Fox News, there is no excuse for special counsel Robert Mueller to ask to interview President Trump. In fact, it is now clear the investigators have been given so much information about the president's actions and had such remarkably open access, they should just close shop and write their final report. They no longer have any grounds for going to court to get a subpoena to compel the president to testify. Mueller's fatal mistake was revealed Saturday in the New York Times story titled White House counsel Don McGann has cooperated extensively in the Mueller inquiry. Michael Schmidt and Maggie Haberman reported that there were at least 30 hours of interviews between the Mueller team and the White House counsel. Don McGann asserted throughout the interviews that he never saw Mr. Trump go beyond his legal authorities. McGann's cooperation is historically unique because President Trump waived both executive privilege and attorney-client privilege. President Trump was so confident of his innocence that he waived both of these protections to allow the special counsel to thoroughly question the White House attorney. Accepting such a thorough and detailed briefing from the White House counsel will ultimately hurt the efforts of Mueller's team of left-wing Democratic lawyers. McGann is a very widely respected lawyer who thoroughly understands the difference between legal and illegal behavior, and he was in the room for virtually all of President Trump's activities. It couldn't be more clear the Trump White House was comfortable talking for 30 hours with a pack of high-powered, very tough-minded investigators because the president has done nothing wrong. Nevertheless, at every stage, Mueller has conducted an aggressive, one-sided, and increasingly irresponsible investigation. Mueller was brought in to seek the truth about whether there was collusion between the Donald Trump campaign and Russians to impact the 2016 election. He first stepped down the road of abusive aggressiveness, was to hire a completely partisan team of mostly or all Democrat attorneys. Mueller could have hired a balanced team of Republicans and Democratic lawyers. He could have avoided hiring lawyers who had worked for Hillary Clinton or gone to the Clinton election night party. Instead, he hired totally biased opponents of Trump who want to take down the president. The Manafort trial is a case study in how a ruthless prosecutor can use the power of the state to intimidate and punish an individual. Mueller's second step down the road was to find accusations that had nothing to do with the election, the Russians, or a question of collusion. Look at the outrageous abuse of Paul Manafort. Manafort had been campaign chairman. He had ties with foreign businessmen. He had done extensive business in the Ukraine. I'm sure the Mueller team believed if anyone was the obvious entry point for collusion, it would have been Manafort. Yet, they found nothing. Let me repeat this because it is so ignored by the daily media headlines. The Mueller team found no evidence of Manafort colluding with any foreign entities on the 2016 election. Manafort is being tried over tax and banking issues that have nothing to do with Russian collusion or any election. In fact, the Manafort trial is a case study in how a ruthless prosecutor can use the power of the state to intimidate and punish an individual. Manafort and his wife were awakened in their pajamas in a pre-dawn hour raid by the FBI agents conducting the raid on their residence, even though the previous day Manafort had been cooperating with the Senate's investigative body. Furthermore, there was no evidence Manafort represented any danger of violence or flight. The early morning attack was designed to frighten Manafort and to send a signal to other political witnesses to cooperate or else. An extraordinary abuse of power was displayed through Mueller's holding of Manafort in solitary confinement in a cell for 23 hours a day as he awaited trial. This level of deprivation is astonishing when done to an American citizen who has committed no violent crimes and has not been convicted of anything. Again, it is an effort to intimidate and coerce. Mueller also understands that every person he goes after has to hire lawyers, spend their lifetime savings, and potentially end up deeply in debt to simply protect themselves from government lawyers who could potentially put them in prison. Now we are at the end of the failed investigation. With McGanns' 30 hours of testimony, it is clear there is no evidence of President Trump either colluding with the Russians or engaging in illegal obstruction of justice. Saturday's New York Times story should be the end of the story. Mueller should write his report to Congress and return to his retirement. Retirement? I say put him behind bars, Mueller. Mueller should be behind bars and return the money, because he knew he's investigating under a false dossier. He knows the dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton through the DNC and Perkins Coie. Come on now, Mueller. You should be held accountable just like you raided Manafort. They should raid your premises and see what they find in there. And your attorney, actually he's the attorney, residence. They should raid his residence just like they did Manafort. Let's see what dirt we can dig up on Mueller. And how about your pal Hillary Clinton, who is the person behind all of this garbage? Let's raid her home and see what we find, and her attorney Perkins Coie, and see what evidence we find. We find so much evidence that there wouldn't be a number for the crimes that she has committed. Come on. This guy delivered the uranium and he's talking about Russian collusion. Come on, give us a break, Mueller. Enough is enough already. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.